Students are very passionate, and it really hurts me to see that these clubs don't last. You look at history of every school and you see there was like an animal rights group, like MIT, for instance. They did something for 2 years, they graduated, it died. And then 2 years of nothing, and then another 2 years, another club, different name, different strategy, graduated. And same thing happens over and over. We can't afford losing so much time and resources. Yet we have so much talent in universities. And the fact that we don't have a system to harness this potential, that really bothers me.
Tell us about why you started Allied Scholars for Animal Protection, also called, as Dasi mentioned, ASAP. What inspired you, what the organization does, and what is the situation with young people on these campuses in terms of animals and why they need an organization like yours?
Yeah, so I give you the philosophy behind it. So we just talked about, whether ethics works, whether outreach works, whether we should focus on individuals or should we, tackle the system. I think there is a middle ground that no one is talking about, and that's doing the outreach in a place that matters the most, which is universities, to train these people to become the future thought leaders in the position of power and influence, right? So right now, when we try to tackle the system and everyone in charge is anti-vegan and hates change and paid by industry, the change is really hard. But you can see how much we can accomplish when people in the position of power are just like remotely or strongly, pro-veganism. You can go through 4 years of college and never come across veganism, and that's terrible. And so from one side, you have that. The other side, you have an insane amount of talent and potential in universities that we are completely missing. We are not investing in training the future generation of Bruce's and Mayor Adams and etc., like people like us. So it's going to be a very bad news for our movement if we don't fix this. So the goal of ASAP is to bring this advocacy to universities. And another thing that I noticed is that the animal rights movement is very sporadic and ineffective in universities and disorganized. Different clubs are called different things. The branding is different. You have, when you go to a college, you have no idea if there's going to be an animal rights club, and you have no idea what they do, what they're called, none of that. But you look at effective organizations, such as Christian organizations, such as law school organizations, like Federalist Society, like EA, for instance. They are called the same exact thing. They do the exact same thing in every university. There is a central organization that supports them. So what I want is the Starbucks version of animal rights for universities. So before a student goes to college, they know that there is going to be an ASAP chapter. They know exactly what they do. It's going to be called the same thing in all universities. And I really want everyone to work in a very orchestrated manner instead of, we are doing this tabling here. We are doing a lot of potlucks here. And the way we do this is we have 3 pillars. One is outreach. So outreach is completely missing. Literally, you can go to universities and never come across a vegan group doing anything at all. And that's terrible. Like, how can we reach out to vegans that already exist to empower them? How can we reach out to, and believe me, when I'm on universities talking to students, a lot of times people say, you know what, I've been thinking about going vegan. Those are people who are so easy to make vegan, but we are just not there to talk to them, right? So without outreach, we can't do that. So one of my main focuses is to have a lot of outreach, which is tailored towards different people, towards vegans, towards, low-hanging fruits, towards others. And then once we have them, we bring them in. The second pillar is education and empowerment, to make vegans active, because we don't need just more vegans, we need more active vegans. So the second pillar is to activate vegans and to bring like whole food plant-based education to medical schools, to bring scientists to schools to talk about climate and all this stuff. And the third pillar is working with dining halls to go plant-based, because that increases the availability of plant-based foods, so it makes it easier for everyone else to go vegan. So it becomes like a loop. You do a lot of outreach to get people, you do a lot of education to inspire them to have impactful careers. You make it easier for everyone to be vegan. And it's a positive feedback loop. The more you do it, the easier it gets, the faster it grows.
Yeah, it's important on college campuses because you might get a very passionate student who runs the club, but then that person graduates and then the club falls apart. But when you have something like ASAP behind that club, then that turnover doesn't affect it as much. So I think it's genius what you're doing.
That was one of the main ideas. We actually look at top 100 universities in the US, and over 90% don't even have a club. And those who do, none of them is doing any outreach. And without doing outreach, you're just not going to have any new members. Most of the events that they do is like potlucks and going to restaurants and eat. That's not going to really inspire anyone to, oh, this hummus is really tasty. I'm going to dedicate my career to animal rights from now. It doesn't happen that way. Students are very passionate, and it really hurts me to see that these clubs don't last. You look at history of every school and you see there was like an animal rights group, like MIT, for instance. They did something for 2 years, they graduated, it died. And then 2 years of nothing, and then another 2 years, another club. Different name, different strategy, graduated. And same thing happens over and over. We can't afford losing so much time and resources. Yet we have so much talent in universities. And the fact that we don't have a system to harness this potential, that really bothers me.